Recording this 2:58 on the 5th of May. Today, me and Nolan are joined by a special guest. We had Cohen, we had Haynes, and now today we got Macri. Macri is here to spend a little bit time with us. I wanted to ask Macri about this next season so far because coming into the season, we was expecting to have like a top five pick. Some Knicks fans were expecting us to get an estimate like 25 to 30 wins. And then all of a sudden we have this magical season. And I know if you interviewed, Mike Green throughout the season and other reporters that's been around the team, I wanted to ask you, how has been your overall feelings like about the team this season, the turnaround? Because we were supposed to be, a top five lottery team.
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is that it's been a surprise. I know, like, as Knicks fans, we constantly are kind of have our guard up, and we tend to take offense when different people in the media will, project us to be terrible and this or that. But like the reality of the situation is that there's nobody, who had the Knicks. Like maybe, there were some people I'm sure who thought they might compete for the play-in spot, but like nobody thought this was going to happen. So, I remember doing podcasts before the year started in which I was said, that there was no conceivable way, nothing that they could do that could result in them, being anything other than a last place team in their division because of the division they play in. So I think the reason I'm talking a lot about what a surprise this was is because I think the NBA in particular, perhaps more than any other sport, is a league where narratives matter and narratives build up over time. And, the Knicks needed a good narrative this season. More, I would argue, than any team in the league, just because of how things have gone over the last several years, not only in terms of wins and losses, but just the perception around the franchise. So I think to have a year like this where the expectations were so low and now, they're going to, I don't know, whatever they're going to finish, fourth, fifth, sixth, there's still a possibility, I guess, they don't even make the playoffs and they have to go through the play-in. But the fact that the narrative has turned around, I think a lot of excitement has been generated. And I think it's warranted because it's not just excitement amongst the fan base, which obviously this has been very exciting for all of us. But I think even more than that, people around the league are looking at the Knicks now and they're saying, oh my God, this is now a situation that we at least need to pay attention to. And I really do believe that this is a team that players around the league are all of a sudden looking at and saying, that's a place that I might want to come. I don't, who that player is or how they get that player. I'm not, I can't sit here and be like, oh, I know for sure they're going to, trade for Damian Lillard or sign like Kyle Lowry. I don't know the specifics, but if you're a team in the NBA that plays in a major market and you're good and you're functional, good things tend to happen. So definitely, like, all due respect to anybody who was like, they're going to regret not ending up with a top five pick. Like, that's not a plan. That's something that maybe you luck into and something good happens out of it. But this is absolutely the best thing that could have happened to the team this year.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, like you said, with the lottery, even we've seen in recent years just how the luck in the lottery is really just kind of a shit show. You don't know what you're going to get, and no player, no matter how high you draft them, is guaranteed to actually produce for you. So, I mean, the year they're having and just the culture they're building with all the assets, draft picks, cap space they have, like you said, I just think they're really set up pretty well for the future.
Yeah, no, 100%. There is no such thing. Well, I shouldn't say there's no such thing. There's almost no such thing as like Luka was a sure thing, right?
Right.
I'm a couple other. There's been a couple other examples, but like there's always uncertainty. Like guys that you think are can't miss prospects, and all you have to do is just go through literally any year, pretty much, almost any year of draft history. And you don't even have to look very far. Just look at the first 3 picks of every year. And there's like a 90% chance that when you look at the first 3 picks, you're going to find a guy that, worst case scenario, was a complete bust. And like more instances than not, someone from that top 3, and sometimes more than one person from that top 3, did or fell far short of expectations. So, the notion that like they could have guaranteed themselves something by being the worst team in the league and like that would have been great, like it's just not realistic. So.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. Hamza, is there anything else you wanted to talk about on that aspect of the next season and your take on what they're
No, because because this next season to me has been very special, just based on the fact that I started watching this team, growing up watching this team during the Strawberry era, right? And you're watching throughout those years are nothing but disappointment. We know we had that 1 year with Melo, and we went to the second round and lost to the Pacers, right? But and I don't know, Macri, I don't know if you've been a fan since the 90s, but I have not seen winning basketball in the city in a while, right? And this season really marks hopefully a fresh start and seeing this regime really make the best out of what they have. Remember, we were the lowest payroll on the team. And and I'm right with Macri, right? Because like the draft picks, you could find steals anywhere in the draft, and I'm pretty confident with this front office on how they handle the quickly situation. And Obi, I would prefer. I liked how Obi was supposed to come into the NBA more NBA ready, and he hasn't been, but he's a hard worker, and I appreciate what the Knicks have done this draft, and hopefully we could continue that same model and into next year's draft and find pieces that could really help us in the upcoming season, which should be, because this is a very deep draft. There's a whole bunch of guards that look like they're going to be good, and hopefully we can make a run at one of those guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's well said.
I mean, like, and what you said about Obi too, it's like he is trending in the right direction, and he hasn't really been in a situation where he's been able to play heavy minutes just because Randall's been having such an incredible and surprising year. So, I mean, I think if he had more playing time on the court and had a real point guard to play with, like you see how much better he plays with D Rose, that you'd see his rookie season in a much different light than we see it now.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly on Obi, I think it's worth noting that the guy's shooting 61% from on twos this year, so it's not like he's gone out there and can't do anything. Like, he's among rookies who have played at least 500 minutes. His 2-point percentage is, I think, second to Okongwu. So he can do stuff out there. It's just, like you said, he's not getting the opportunity. Obviously, he's struggling from three, and it's not an ideal situation for him because he's playing alongside a traditional big man. And in a perfect world, you want to put him in a situation where it's 4 out, and he's the roll man, he's the lob threat. But we'll see. And look, not Rome wasn't built in a day. So the situations you're seeing Obi topping in right now, presuming they hang on to him, are not necessarily the same situations that he's always going to be in on this team. So yeah, no, I think that's well said.
And I guess the last thing we'll get you with before we let you get out of here is just kind of a little bit on tonight's game against the Nuggets. I mean, I saw that. I mean, obviously the Nuggets were 9-1 going into Monday's game against the Lakers, and you saw that the Lakers are a team that have like a physical brand of defense, and that kind of gave them a little bit of trouble. I mean, they got Nurkic, or not Nurkic, you got Jokic in foul trouble, hit 4 fouls. Michael Porter Jr. put up some decent numbers, but I think his stat line was 19 points on 8 of 5 shooting, so still shooting over 50%, 2 of 7 from 3. One was waived after a ridiculous flop by AD. And only 6 rebounds in 39 minutes. I mean, that's pretty average, but I think defenses like that really have been a problem for Denver, especially with Murray being out. And that, well, Michael Porter Jr. started figuring things out in the second half of the last game. In the first quarter, he only was 1 of 4. He had 0 shot attempts in the second, so that's 1 for 4 for the entire first half. And then he got 3 for 6 in third, 4 for 5 in the fourth. And I just kind of wanted to think or ask you your opinion on if you think the Knicks defense can present similar challenges. I know a lot of people on Twitter are always saying after they play the Knicks that their defense is so tough. A lot of fans are always complaining, saying we get away with fouls. And I think it's kind of one of those things that you see in the NBA for years where, you know, the Knicks, not that they foul all the time or anything, but they almost put you in a position where they play so physical throughout a game that the refs can't literally call everything. And that leads to them playing like kind of like a mugging style and just getting into a position where you have to let some calls go as a ref. So what do you think about the Knicks defense and how they'll match up against Denver tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally, I mean, look, the thing about the Knicks defense is there's not a whole lot of mystery about what they try to do. They you know, traditionally Thibodeau defenses have tried to prevent teams from taking a lot of shots at the rim. I think the difference this year is because the Knicks are, you know, lucky enough to have, I mean, when Mitch was around, 2 of the top 10 shot blockers in the NBA. And even that, you know, we'll see. Noel might not be there tonight. And we'll see about Pell. But, you know, they have rim protection. So it's almost like, yes, they do try to still prevent teams from shooting in the paint, but they also kind of trust their centers. And that's why, at last I checked, they had the second or third lowest opponent accuracy rate on shots in the restricted area. So like teams don't hit shots at the rim against them. And it's not like they take a ton either. So that's what they want to do. I think the physicality is kind of baked into that to a certain extent, but really their whole, and Tibbs, this isn't, you know, anything groundbreaking because Tibbs says it all the time. It's all about, okay, well, when you have those extra bodies who have a foot in the paint to try to deter these drivers or make the lives of the drivers hard, how quickly can they then get back out for a contest on a 3-point shot? And I think we've seen some of the better 3-point shooting teams this year, you know, have been able to, I don't want to say solve the Knicks defense because it's not like they're doing anything like, you know, that creative. It's that they have really good shooters. The Nets, for example. Like, you know, if you give Joe Harris a sliver of daylight, he's you know, probably going to hit a shot. Like Utah gave mostly the second game, but like those guys could just hit a ton of threes. Milwaukee absolutely blew the doors off them in the first game after out of the All-Star break. Like the Clippers game, the first Clippers game, which I still think is the most points that the Knicks have given up the season. And sure enough, who's the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA this year? The Clippers. So like, if you're a team that can hit threes, you could beat the Knicks because you're gonna have a sliver of daylight to get that shot off. The thing that's going to be interesting tonight is the Clippers are banged up not only with Murray, but they don't have PJ Dozier, who started for them the last game because he got hurt,
Right.
and they're also missing Will Barton, who is a contributor for them, and I'm forgetting one other. I think there's one other guy. Monty Morris.
They're really
so
right now.
Yeah, so I would expect them tonight to trot out a starting backcourt of Austin Rivers and Campazzo, the little point guard that they signed. And Austin Rivers from deep is not the same thing as Will Barton or even Monty Morris.
Right.
So I think the Knicks may get a little lucky there. That said, Porter is a huge fucking problem. So excuse my French. Like,
Oh yeah,
I don't know, you know, you seem like you're pretty good with the stats. Like he's putting up 25 or 26 a game over the last I think his last 8 games. He's really good. And he could hit shots and he could do some stuff with the ball. And Jokic is the runaway MVP winner. But you know, that said, I think the most valuable player tonight, and I honestly would have said this even if Noel is playing, and I have a feeling he's probably not going to.
No, he is. They just tweeted it.
That he's out.
No, he's playing. He's playing.
Oh, he is playing. Okay, great.
Great.
Well, even so, I'll say this. I think it's going to be Taj. I think you're going to see a lot of Taj on Jokic, because Taj Gibson is, first of all, you know, don't get me wrong, I love Nerlens Noel. He's awesome. I think if the NBA All NBA defense voting was a little bit different in terms of a positional flexibility, he would get some consideration there. But he's not the biggest guy. He's kind of slight, and we've seen him get bodied a little bit. I like Taj as the matchup for Jokic more than Noel, and I would not be surprised at all if Tibbs wound up finishing like the second quarter and the fourth quarter, assuming it's a close game, with Taj Gibson in there. I think that's going to be really important. Jokic is not the guy you want to bring double teams to, because if you double him, he's going to find someone. But then again, with the Nuggets injuries, who's the guy he's finding late, and do you mind that guy shooting? If it's, again, if it's Austin Rivers, if it's Campazzo, I mean, Campazzo's good, but so that's going to be interesting. Aaron Gordon is another one. Aaron Gordon has not really played well of late for them. So, like, do you mind Jokic kicking it out to Gordon? Then again, it might not be Gordon on the floor, because they also have Millsap, they have JaMychal Green. Those guys are better shooters from deep than Gordon. So I think look, any way you cut it, it's a tough matchup. The Nuggets obviously won 9 of 10 before the Laker game for a reason. Their competition over those 10 games was not great, but they beat a few good teams. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I think it'll be a good test for them. They haven't won in Denver in something like 15 years.
Yeah, Sean was telling us on the other podcast. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, it's been a while. So but I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they do. I'll say this, and then I gotta run. This is a game that, like, if you were a Knicks fan in years past, like, I mean, we probably watch. I watch every game. I'm sure you guys do too. But, like, you probably wouldn't have even turned on the game tonight because you figure they're going to get blown out. And this Knicks team just finds a way to compete every night. And I'm pretty sure every game that they've played in the second half of the season, after that first game against Milwaukee, has been competitive. It's come pretty much down to the end. And obviously they've won a lot of those games too. So, we'll see what they do. But I gotta run, but I appreciate you guys having me on. This was fun.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for coming on, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, hopefully you come back on. Hopefully come back on with a longer time period, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely the off season, 100%. You will hit me back up and we'll do this again, okay?
Sounds good, brother. Appreciate you.
All
Have
right,
a good one.
Be well. You too.
Make sure to catch Macri stuff on the Knicks Film School if you're a diehard fan like us. One of the best contents out on YouTube. And we'll check you guys out later.